I mean,
Max.
yes. What was his last name? I'm so sorry, I can't remember.
We're both sorry.
That does not mean that he was not a good co-chair. It just means that I can't remember his name. But I was co-chair with Max for 1 year and 2 years, I think it was. And I think at the time we had 2-year terms or 1-year terms. I think we had 2-year terms, and I didn't serve the second year of my second term. For personal reasons, I wasn't able to be co-chair for that second year, and then I think, who was the Irish gentleman that took over?
John Connolly.
John Connolly took over my term as co-chair.
Well, when you were co-chair, the concept of joint leadership in this organization, both locally and nationally, is kind of a unique one in a way, because you have two different co-chairs, you have two co-chairs of different races, and yet they theoretically have equal power. And so, how did that work out in practice? Did you divide work with your co-chairs ahead of time, or how did that work? And did you feel it was satisfactory?
Communication was the most important thing between the two co-chairs. And as you say, it was a unique dynamic because we were peers in terms of the power we had for the organization, such as the power was. But we were equal in that sense. And we were also trying to deal with the issues of what was theoretically one non-black and one non-white co-chair working together. As well as the rest of the steering committee, we tried to maintain racial parity for the rest of it. So you had there was a book that was written called Conflict and Style.
Black and White Styles and Conflict.
Black and White Styles and Conflict, thank you, which really addressed the issue of how a white person might be a leader, and how a black person might be a leader. And these were the kind of things that, for me, I sort of stepped into and learned as I went along. Whereas before taking a leadership role in an organization such as this, I never dreamed that there was any kind of difference. We were just with other people, just other Americans, if you will, who were trying to do the same thing. But what I learned as I was going along is that there are some different ways of going about things that tend to be more black, if you will, and tend to be more white, if you will, and can come into a conflict, and the way things are interpreted by me or by the other co-chair might also be different as a result of our cultural difference.
Can you think of any specific examples? I know that how that could work in practice.
I think there were times when I might have thought that my co-chair understood what I was thinking. When he didn't. And the fact that he didn't was out of, I think, sort of a difference in style. Is the way that I might have communicated something, and the way I wanted to do something, or the way I was hoping he would do something, or vice versa. The way I thought I was communicating something was different than the way he was actually hearing it. And whatever it was didn't get done. Whoever it was that said he would do it, or said that you'll do it, or whatever, the communication maybe was misunderstood and misinterpreted. And I think that happened quite a few times. not only as co-chair, but in the organization altogether. That what I think is clear in my mind, and what I think I'm expressing clearly to the person I'm working with, may not be the case at all. And you go a week later and it's total misunderstanding about whatever the issue was.
Mm. Well, after you were co-chair of the chapter and you left that position, you remained involved in the leadership of the chapter, did you not?
Yes.
And you were, in what position? Were you the treasurer or something?
I remained the treasurer until we treasury, yes. I kept the checkbook for the treasury for a long, long time until we closed the books, I think, in 99.
What do you think happened? Our chapter, and then we should state this for this record, our chapter now is not in existence. I guess legally it's in existence, but it's not functioning. What do you think happened to our chapter?
I guess it became irrelevant. I guess the whole concept of black and white men together, maybe in people's minds at least, became irrelevant. Whereas, still, there are many black and white couples in Los Angeles. And there are many black people that are Caucasian on occasion or interracially focused, and there are many white people in Los Angeles that are interracially focused. But it seems to me, I guess, that the whole idea of having an organization of that, of people like that, doesn't seem to have the same relevancy that it did in the 80s and 90s, early 90s at least. I would say one thing, and I would also say that the impact of AIDS on our community has had such a devastating effect as well that I can't speak specifically how that has impacted our organization or the way it has, but I can say that I think the effect that our chapter is pretty much defunct now, I think has a great deal to do with AIDS as well as the change in our society and the change in our culture and the relevancy of a black and white organization is not as strong.
Why do you think that's true? I mean, what has changed in society or a culture that has made us less relevant in your view?
Well, there's also been a very large growth in gay and lesbian African American organizations and people of color organizations, and I think a lot stronger within the people of color, gay people of color community. There's a lot stronger organizations coming out of there, organizing people, making perhaps black and white men together less necessary or desired by someone, by a person of color. What happened to our organization as we were in the process of dying, if you will, is our events became more and more white and less people of color. Until there were, I remember times in our latter days where we had steering committee meetings that was all white people, which obviously is totally contrary to the concept of the organization.
Was that just at the steering committee level, or was it also at social events when we had them?
I think it was at both, but social events less so. There still remained, and I think there still is, a desire within this town to get together on a social level. I think our social part of our organization and part of ourselves is still quite strong, and that if we were able to get if we wanted to get a party together of black and white people, people of color and white people, it would be relatively easy, but on the level of leadership and steering the organization, there's less and less interest, and the interest seems to have waned first from people of color and then from people of non-color. Interest in doing the work to keep the organization going is gone. I can speak personally. We were just talking before we started this interview about someone in LA who'd like to get the organization going again. And neither one of us knows this person, but when I hear that, I say, fine, we'll do it. But personally, I don't know. I don't have the energy to do any kind of leadership within the organization. And I guess it's because of, in the last 4 or 5 years, it's become increasingly a struggle to keep it together, to keep people involved who want to do more than just attend the fun events and who want to do some of the work to organize the organization. There's fewer and fewer people like that. So I've had the wind knocked out of me, in a sense, of the energy knocked out of me to do anything leadership-wise or organization-wise for BWLA, unfortunately.
And you're not alone.
Yes, I think that's the feeling.
It's a
shared feeling by many. However, the people that have been involved in BWMPLA are still there. Many of the people are still here, and many of the people are still in interracial relationships or want to be. So I still don't question what was validated for me when I walked in that room in 1982. What was validated for me is that I'm a kind of person who likes black men. And when I walked in that room, and ever since, the organization has helped validate that for me and say that that's okay, and there's lots of other people in this town that are like that. And it's a very good thing, in fact, to not only work on yourself vis-a-vis gay issues, but work on yourself vis-a-vis issues of racism. And I still believe that. And though the organization has floundered and is now defunct, that strength that I got from day one, I still feel that. I'm very happy about that.
Do you think you'd be inclined to come back into the organization if someone else
did the work?
Leadership?
Yes. If someone else did the work, I'd attend all the parties and all the social, political events. Yes, I would be there. And I think in time I would be motivated to return to leadership positions if I wasn't the only one, If I wasn't the only one.
Well, let's turn to your involvement with the National Association. What was your first involvement with the National?
It was in 1985 when I was young and pretty. And we had the convention here in LA. And because I had been involved in the local chapter, of course, as you know, what usually happens is that the yearly conventions are shared between the local chapter and the NA organization. At least it was in that year, so that practically all the people that were involved in the convention in '85 in LA were people from the chapter. and we had meetings and organizational meetings, and that's when we met up on BWMT Hill up in that attic, and it was really fun. And one of the things I did for that convention was I organized a workshop of people over 55 or over 60 or over 55 or something, a senior citizens kind of day workshop for issues important to older members of the group. And I organized Lloyd Arant, who was one of the, was on the panel, and there was also, oh gosh, how could I forget his name? You know, that famous civil rights activist.
Morris Price?
No, who was also part of the March on Washington. Bayard Rustin, thank you. Bayard Rustin was also on that panel, and John Bush was on that panel, and that was very interesting. I mean, I think the workshop was good, but it was very good for me, I know, because it made me feel like I had put together something that was quite valuable, and that I was also part of something that I felt was quite valuable. The entire convention, in a sense, I felt that we were addressing issues that were important, not only to me, but to everyone there and to society in general. And I felt very good about that.
What else do you remember about that convention?
I remember the House of Delegates meeting. I remember quite clearly Erwin Rothenberg standing up and trying to defend, I think he was trying to defend somebody who was running for co-chair from New York or something. I can't remember clearly, but we had a lot of organizational issues in that year, issues of trying to organize the NA. I think at that time it was still called the IABWMT. Was that it?
It was around then it changed.
Anyway, at first it was called the International Association of Black and White Men Together, and then at some point it became the National Association of Black and White Men Together, and I believe the reason it went national, if you will, as opposed to international, was for reasons of nonprofit status. And I remember we had two people running for co-chair, and one of them was from New York, and I believe he was quite ill at the time.
I think you have your years.
I might have my years mixed up.
That was in Detroit, I think, in '91.
Oh,
James Tom.
Yes, I'm sorry.
And in '85, John Bush and Tim Wilson were
co-chairs.
Co-chairs. Let me ask you this. That was your first national event. How did you experience that event, however, psychically, different than the local chapter? I mean, was going to a national convention somehow a qualitatively different experience for you than your involvement with the local chapter?
Yes, and I think again it was relating back to the validation that personally I would get from the organization. Now I was getting that same kind of validation from a larger national, and perhaps at the time international organization of what was very deep and personal thing to me, that I was number one gay, and that my attraction was towards black men. Those two things were now even more validated by a national organization. And it was something that was most of the time subconscious, or that I wasn't necessarily aware of, but it was definitely a fact, and frankly I'm forever grateful to the organization, both chapter and nationally, for that validation.
Well, now, 1985, and it was my first convention also, and I remember being exposed to the fact that there were some regional differences in our organization. Of course, that was the year of the flag controversy with the Atlanta chapter. What if any, recollection do you have of that, and how did that affect you, if it did?
Yeah, I don't remember that too much, and I was a lot more behind the scenes in that convention, as opposed to attending a lot of the workshops and stuff, because when I did facilitate that one workshop, but other than that, I was helping behind the scenes to get, in other words, get materials ready for one workshop, or making sure there was food or something for another meeting. And I was in the background quite a bit of that convention in 1985. I do remember I was very humbled by the sort of largeness of it. And that we had people from all over the country, and we had very articulate people, black and white and every race, really. We had very articulate people and very educated people, and it was on a scale such that I was very impressed with, and I was very humbled by. And I also remember some of the arguments and some of the fights that would sometimes get quite heated. And again, it was, in the grand scheme of things, the issues were not all that important, but the way people were acting, it was like life and death sort of issues to some people.
What were some of those issues?
Some of the issues, whether a region would have a certain vote or another region would have another vote in the House of Delegates, and like if they don't get this vote, is that the end of the world or the end of the organization or whatever? And I was just impressed by that. And I can remember sitting way in the back of the room when we had the House of Delegates meeting, and seeing the back of everyone's heads, and but seeing kind of from the back everyone getting quite anxious about this, and it was like that organization was so important to the people there at the convention. It was so important, and these issues were so important to these people that they reached down deep into their heart and soul on these issues, and I was very impressed with that.
Now, you weren't a voting delegate at that convention, but I know you were at subsequent ones. Have you attended every convention since then?
Well, no. Between 85 and 91, I didn't attend any convention. So in 1991, when it was in Detroit, I attended that one, and every one since. That's right.
You didn't attend the San Francisco convention?
San Francisco in 90, was that? In 90? No. I don't remember why I didn't, but I attended the first one in 91, and I was a delegate in the House of Delegates in 91. And then I attended every convention.
Which meant you were one of two people representing the Los Angeles chapter and voting our strength. Right?
Yes.
And why don't we go through each convention you've been to, and if you have some specific recollections. And while we think about that, I want to take a short break. Okay, we're back on the air, and we're going to, you said you've attended every convention since 1991, and that was in Detroit. So maybe we can go through it if you have some specific recollection, something that stood out in your mind, someone that struck you there, some event, some workshop.
The Detroit convention a couple things, and as I would think about it, I'd remember a lot more. But what I remember first is it was at that convention that I met Dr. John Bush, who's always been a very vital and dramatic, educational, beneficial person to this organization. And I think people who know him will agree that once you meet him, you don't usually forget him. And that, I mean that as a compliment.
Now you admit he was on your panel though in 1985, wasn't he?
Yeah, I had met him then, but I'd met him with a lot of other people, and he didn't have the same impact as he did in 1990.
So you thought you got to know him.